Hello chess friends and welcome to your of Chess channel and welcome to another beautiful game from the Hans Niemann against the world competition that we have followed in the last couple of days. We have here Nikita Vitiugov against Hans Niemann, who is basically playing against every grandmaster that wants to play against him, and we know that because of the recent controversy against Hans Niemann, basically he's not getting invited into some competitions. He's not playing so many tournaments. He doesn't play the top events, so that's why he decided to make his own event in which he's trying to battle against anyone who wants to play against him, and today it was his first game against Nikita Vitiugov. We have to also mention Hans Niemann won with a great result his game against Anish Giri, so let's see now how the first game ended between Nikita Vitiugov and Hans Niemann. So with the white pieces, Nikita Vitiugov opened with the move d4, Hans responds plus knight to f6, c4, e6, knight to c3, bishop to b4, the Nimzo-Indian defense is on the board. e3, normal line, kingside castling, bishop to d3, which is now the so-called bishop attack. Basically white is trying to compete here with knight to e2, then of course cover his knight without messing up the pawn structure, and then later wants to play a3, kicking away the bishop, and then keep simply a good structure and keep of course then afterwards also the bishop pair on the board. Hans is competing with d5, we have a3, bishop takes c3, b takes c3, and now after d takes c4, bishop to c4. Okay, white is continuing the game with the bishop pair, but we have to mention of course that the dark square bishop is not the optimal piece. It's neutralized, it's blocked out by its own pawn, so we cannot really say this is such a great bishop pair, and that's many times the main strategic goal of the Nimzo-Indian, going positionally into the game, not allowing these bishops to be very active. So far pretty standard line, I would say, of the Nimzo-Indian defense. We have c5, Hans is breaking now in the center of the board. If something like d takes c5 happens here, then the queens could be off the board. You have lost the privilege of castling, and then slowly but surely black will attack all of these weak pawns, all of this isolated pawns. So d takes c5 of course is not an option here for white. Knight to f3, queen to c7, indirectly also hitting the bishop. The threat is c takes d4, and then the bishop could be loose, so that's why bishop to e2 by Nikita Vitiugov, and now b6 by Hans, keeping the structure cemented, and now of course liberating the long diagonal for the light square bishop. We have bishop to b2. You see Nikita Vitiugov is trying somehow to activate this piece, but it's very hard because many pawns are standing in your way. Bishop to b7, kingside castling, and now knight to c6. Okay, now we come to maybe the first critical moment of opening theory. Here, Nikita Vitiugov plays an interesting line, d takes c5, which makes his dark square bishop's life, of course, much better because of the potential move c4. And they're basically two good choices here for black. Black can take b takes c5 like Hans did, or could go maybe into a more aggressive line with the move knight to a5. I really loved this line, knight to a5, which I've seen in one game played by Jan-Krzysztof Duda against Jan Nepomniachtchi. Jan Nepomniachtchi played this knight to a5 concept, allowed here Jan-Krzysztof Duda to take, and then with queen to b6, notice that your bishop is hanging, and there's simply not such an easy way to defend this bishop. If you try something like rook to b1, then bishop to e4 attacks the rook, and you could lose really decisive material. If you try to cover, then rook from f2 or rook from a to d8 is going to happen, and this is a messy position here for white. So although you have the bishop here, as I mentioned, it's not really the optimal bishop here. So in this sequence, after queen to b6, you would be pretty much forced to play now the move rook to a2 in order to cover your bishop, but it's a strange square of course for the rook. Still it can be attacked. Look at this, we attack first of all the queen, then again the queen. We can also again attack the queen with bishop to e4. Unpleasant game really for white to handle, especially on light square. So I wanted to show you this line because it's really interesting, but Hans played now this move b takes c5 and keeps now himself also an isolated pawn, but we have to also say white structures also already damaged because of the c3 isolated pawn and also the a3 isolated pawn. Of course Nikita Vitiugov plays now finally c4, liberates now finally the bishop, can breathe to finish. The bishop is finally activated. e5, Hans locks another diagonal, queen to c2, rook to e8, simply keeping his position on dark squares compact. Really strange position. It seems so that white should be actually much better here, but you see how great Hans is playing. He has really great positional understanding. He will try to make something out of this, although I would love always to play more the game from white's perspective with the bishop pair on the board. But look how Hans is finding really interesting ideas. After rook from f to d1, Hans played an amazing idea, knight to a5. I really like this move because you see now what kind of a reposition, what kind of a maneuver here Hans is trying. After knight to a5, knight to d2, here Hans is playing bishop to c6, bishop to c3, and now Hans goes with the knight on b7, and he's trying to finally get a nice grip on dark squares by using his knight. And when he maybe tries, maybe even in some lines, if possible, to push the pawn on e4, getting a space advantage in the center of the board, then maybe doing something, maybe rook lifts and similar stuff. But Hans noticed that his pieces are not well placed, especially his knight on c6. Let's go back. When his knight was on c6, usually it was only used just in order to defend this pawn. So now Hans found a beautiful maneuver with the knight. We have knight to f1, Hans is playing knight to e4, and suddenly you see his knights are breeding, his knights are playing, his knights are attacking, his knights are occupying the spaces in his opponent's camp. So really interesting maneuvers here by Hans. Bishop to e1, bishop has to retreat if you want to keep your bishop here, of course, on the board. And now Hans goes with an attack, f5, f3, knight to d6. Everything is glued together, everything is compact. Because of this maneuvers of the knight, now the knights are very well placed, and still now this bishop is very aggressive here with ideas to maybe open this diagonal, and then the white's king could be endangered. We have now knight to g3. All of the position is about equal, but now very dynamic middle game stage for sure. Queen to f7 by Hans. We have f4, queen to e6, indirectly of course hitting the e3 weakness. If something clears, then this e3 could be vulnerable. We have now bishop to d3, and now this move I really liked, and this is sort of anti-positional move. Seems strange that someone would do it, but actually it's the correct way. Hans played now the brilliant g6. Although you are weakening your dark squares and you don't have any more the dark square bishop, and white's dark square bishop could be maybe very progressive in the later stage of the game. Hans recognized the possibility of the brilliant g6, and because of bishop to c3, in order maybe to activate the bishop, is not working because of knight to c4. Hans realized that, and great so far play here by Hans Niemann. g6, rook from a to b1. Now comes a rook to e7, covering the 7th rank, but also not only it's always good to see sometimes in chess, not only that you play with your piece defensively, like you're defending the knight. This rook can be useful, of course, in some potential attacks, maybe through the f file, through the g file, but it's a flexible piece. It controls, of course, now both sides. Bishop to f2, rook from a to e8, and now we have queen to c3. Finally, Nikita Vitiugov is trying to attack the dark squares because Hans exposed him a little bit with the move g6 previously. Now comes another beautiful move, queen to f7. Hans is saying here, no, we're not going to trade off queens. We're not going to simplify the game for you. If you want to take, of course, then my rook is coming. My queen will not take this one because then the queens could be off the board. So here with this move queen to f7, I would say Hans is announcing the possibility of a win. So he is going for a win here, which is really a brave decision when you don't have the bishop pair on the board and you're playing with the black pieces. h3, we have h6. Hans is covering now the dark squares in a different way. He's trying to play king to h7, and then even if you manage somehow to get a battery, queen and bishop battery, still you always control maybe the h8 square with your rook, and you're controlling the g7 square with your queen and a rook. And this is actually a good structure, a very nice concept to know when you're maybe have weakened already your dark squares, or you can be of course in a different position. But now with king to h7 you can really place a nice defensive setup, although you have, as I said, played already the move g6. We have rook to b2, g5 by Hans. You see Hans is going all in with his pawns. We have f takes e5, rook to e5, and now bishop to b1, and again Hans is showing that he wants to win. He plays now the aggressive f4, knight to f1 here by Nikita Vitiugov, and now f3, simply pushing the pawns further. Bishop to g3, Hans is playing a beautiful counterattack. Knight to e4, bishop takes e4, rook takes e4, and now after rook to f2, so far Nikita Vitiugov found the best idea how to activate his own pieces, because if he's maybe allowing some dangerous stuff, if this pawn takes, then this one could be vulnerable. Still, this knight on b7 is a little bit misplaced, but you see also now how Hans is activating also the knight. So here rook to f2, we have rook takes c4, queen to b2 by Nikita Vitiugov, and now g4. And this is an aggressive move, which makes perfectly sense when you are on the attacking side. You want, of course, to split open the position, but Hans rushed it maybe here a little bit, gave Nikita Vitiugov the opportunity to get back into the game. Here, the best choice for white is to play knight to d2. You attack the rook. If, for instance, something like g takes h3 happens, then the rook is hanging. So if you play something like rook to a4, then actually white would have a nice defensive resource to play the move e4, locking out now finally the long diagonal for the light square bishop. Black can, of course, take this piece. Pardon me, the pawn with the bishop, but then after knight to e4, rook to e4, I'm not sure how this game would end because of the dark square problems that we have talked about that Hans provoked with the move g6. But this was probably the only defensive way here for white to proceed. Unfortunately for Nikita Vitiugov, he played now a bad mistake here with h takes g4, allowed here Hans to play rook takes g4, and you see now he got out of this potential attacks by the knight, at least on this side of the board. Nikita Vitiugov took g takes f3, although again e4 should be sort of an idea to somehow lock this diagonal and maybe finally get the knight in a different way into the game. But g takes f3 opens now the g file, and you see how Hans will simply attack further the g file. First of all, he plays rook to g6, but of course stays active here also against white's king. We have now the move e4, locking out now the light square bishop, but now Hans plays the beautiful king to h7, and look at this, the heavy artillery is now coming into the game. Now there are several threats on the g file. White's pieces are a little bit misplaced, I would say. They're not playing in such a great active way. Hans' pieces are much more destructive, I would say, especially the rooks now that are coming through. So very tough to defend position here for Nikita Vitiugov. Queen to c3. Hans uses now this moment, probably maybe queen to e2, slightly better here for white. You're not allowing bishop to b5. Queen to c3 by Nikita, and now Hans is using this moment. He attacks now the knight. That's of course the key defender, I would say, of white's king, and also of the bishop on g3. We have now rook to g2. Hans is doubling up now on the g file, f4, and now Hans takes simply the key defender. What should you do? There are two choices. You can take with the rook, you can take with the king. Actually, slightly better for white is here maybe to take with the king, but still it gets very complicated. Look at this. Then black proceeds with knight to d6. You're trying something like queen to d3 to protect your pawn, but then this one is coming. You're trying maybe something like f5, but look at this. Knight to f5 can even happen because in this tactical sequence, rook takes g3. If you pick up here this rook, if you pick up here this rook with the rook, then you're getting destroyed. You're getting something like this, and I think you can resign after a couple more moves. So after rook to g3, you would be pretty much forced to play queen takes g3, and then after rook takes g3, rook takes g3, queen to h1. Again, black is better. Okay, white has a passer, but black has two passers, and white's king is also exposed, so probably a couple of checks would happen, and then you push the pawns. Still complicated game to play for both sides, of course, but king to f1 was the more accurate way here to proceed. Nikita Vitiugov played rook takes f1, which gives now Hans great attacking chances. Again, knight to d6, going for this pawn. We have queen to f3, protecting it, and now rook to g4, getting out of this potential f5 move that we have seen previously, which gives here white extra tempi, extra time to maybe regroup. So that's why rook to g4, great move by Hans. Rook to f2, queen to g7, putting all of the forces on the g file here. Great attacking style here by Hans. And now after king to h2, we have now queen to g6, putting more pressure, and also here trying to get the move queen to h5. But here in this particular position, there was actually a better choice here for Hans immediately, maybe just for fun. If you like to practice tactics, pause the video and try to see now the best idea here for black. Black moves and wins the game immediately. So Hans could have won the game already in this move. So what would you do now in this particular position? Okay, here Hans had the beautiful idea to play rook takes g3 immediately, just going for everything here, trading off everything, and now you play knight to e4, you grab the rook, and now in this particular endgame with these two passers, the position simply too stretched for white. Black is winning this endgame for sure. But okay, queen to g6 by Hans. He had a different idea in mind. He was trying to play queen to h5 or going for this pawn. In the game f5 was played, and now after this check, queen to h5, king to g1, we have now knight takes e4, and in this particular position Nikita Vitiugov resigned. You have to step back. If you step back, then of course everything is falling here, so game over here for white for sure. So a great game again by Hans, great attacking style, great Nimzo-Indian defense, really stunning how he activated finally his pieces. The knight was on b7 and actually became the best minor piece on the board. Interesting stuff. Great positional understanding, I would say, by Hans. He had here a couple of issues in the game, but he found really great maneuvers, which are really hard to see. Incredible performance again by Hans, Moke, and Niemann. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas here by Hans in the Nimzo-Indian Defense. If you want to see some other games that we have covered by Hans, but also by some other top grandmasters, check out our Come to Chess games. And if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.